Good afternoon in New York, from New York City, where I am, of course. You are hearing the voice of Patricia Angelin, and you are at All the Feels. And All the Feels is a show done every Wednesday that's possible from 5 o'clock, between 5 o'clock and 5:30 Eastern Daylight Time now in the Eastern United States. And what we do is we answer the questions that people ask me, or when they write in, or comment upon what is happening. So that is what we do here. And today you are looking at lovely flowers from Billy's Flowers Wholesale on 28th Street between 6th and 7th Avenues in Manhattan. And Billy very generously gave me the very beautiful flowers that you are looking at right now. As you know, for your limbic health, I want you to start every one of these being able to look at things both in the natural and in the human world that are beautiful. And so flowers is the number one. You will notice that there is a lit candle, there is a beautifully bound book, there is a wooden chair, there is a rock that I painted for my father when I'm 10 with an Alexander Pope quote on it. So this is why I put up all of these things, and you're listening to me, and you just can see there are the great books of the Western world going all the way up through the 19th century, and they are beautiful as well and created by human hands. And a couple of quotes. Don't know how well you can see the quote on the top. On the right of your screen, it's a little picture of the Irish playwright George Bernard Shaw, and it says, "You see things, and you say why, but I dream things that never were, and I say, why not?" Now that's something that our past president of the United States, John F. Kennedy, used in a very famous speech, but it's actually a quote from George Bernard Shaw. And then on the left, in the upper shelf, you will see a picture of a 17th century man, and that man is Jonathan Swift of Gulliver's Travels. And it says, "May you live all the days of your life." Because so often I think we don't really live. We're so busy worrying about the future and being ashamed and regretting the past that we don't really live. So we're going to move on to the subject for today. I'll turn this camera around. Let's see. They keep moving these things on me. There it is, hidden by the flowers. And there I am, and there you are. Very good. So 3 minutes into our All the Feels session today, the 1st of September in the year the very difficult year 2021. And the question before us today is, someone asked me earlier this week, "Pat, I've heard you frequently use the phrase limbic health. What do you mean by limbic health?" And I went, oh, that is a wonderful question. What do I mean by limbic health? Sidebar, I have a good friend. Every time he says something, it seems, that is, in his mind, absolutely clear. And this man speaks very, very good English, and he chooses his words advisedly. And he usually is quite clear in what he is saying. But he is so frequently met with, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Pat, I mean what I said. I said exactly what I meant. What do they mean asking me what I mean?" But because we all bring situational context to anything that any conversation we're in, we bring our own feelings, we bring our own limbic system into all of our social relationships and interactions. The person just didn't get, the executive left brain and the individual listening to him didn't get what he was trying to convey and wanted him to expound, wanted him to elucidate, specify, clarify in a way that the hearer could understand. because the hearer did not understand. So it wasn't a comment on his clarity, which is what annoys him, and he always takes it as his clarity was perfect. And I have found in speaking at Alba technique, and even in all the fields that we're in right now, that many people, I speak very, very clearly, but because I frequently use medical terms, neurobiological terms, I'm really comfortable with them. A lot of the words, people wouldn't know the Greek origins of the words like I do. They don't care about etymology of words. They don't care about the history of words and what things came from and to trace them. I mean, I love that kind of thing. I almost went into medieval linguistics because I love the origins of words in all languages and how they cross-pollinate through cultures, and that fascinates me. But limbic health. We go into a doctor's office. We hope that most of us do that at least once a year, twice a year. We get an overall checkup. And yet we expect our poor limbic part of our brain, the brain that deals with all of our emotions, all of our feelings as we feel them as individuals and as we throw them out at other persons who are then reading them for themselves, to better or worse, depending on how healthy their own minds and their own limbic systems are, as to how well they are able to read in the mirror neurons with which we read each other so well, unless we have a different kind of a wiring, unless we are on the spectrum with autism, unless we have Asperger's, for example, which does seem to make an individual not able to link into the emotional signals of other persons. So, what is limbic health? And how does it look? And how can you acquire it? I think that 200 years from now, it'll probably take that long, maybe only 100, but that we will be able to be maybe going to practitioners for limbic health checkups. Because certainly if we have a health problem in the physical body, we have emotions surrounding that. Think cancer, think, MS, multiple sclerosis, think of all of the terrible diseases, COVID-19. We have a lot of emotions swirling around what happens with our physical bodies. Even if you sprain an ankle or get carpal tunnel, from too much texting or something, or for typing, all of these things have emotions around them. And some people have greater limbic health than others. I have observed in my working with the Alba emoting emotional effector patterns of Susanna Bloch and colleagues, that our biology is extremely smart. And we build up defense mechanisms over and over, more throughout our lives to deal with the things that happen in our lives with which we are unable to deal well when we're 2, or in some cases of people in homes where there's a lot of trauma, as early as 6 months and more, it would become apparent that the temperament of the individual, how it came into the world, is that the temperament of somebody coming into the world is not the same thing as the 15-year-old, certainly, to state an obvious. That there have been many, many things that have happened to each one of us that are cultural, that aren't how we came in. We come in with our emotional availability and our flexibility. We're amazingly flexible when we're emotionally, when we use your words, Pat, when we are infants. And as our bodies and our minds gradually, grow and change, things get encoded, as the wonderful book, The Body Keeps the Score says, quite rightly. And so in order to deal with your limbic health, the health of your emotional systems, you would then be, of course, contributing to your physical health amazingly. Now, caveat, I'm not saying that you or I or anybody else who gets sick is responsible or to be held accountable for the fact that the individual is sick. Are there psychosomatic illnesses? Yeah, there are. And does our psychosoma influence our hard body, physical health? Yeah, it does. As we're going further and further along in our human growth and evolving as a species, we're finding out more and more about this. So, what is limbic health? It is how you deal with your own feeling self, your own emotional self, and the ability to observe it with clarity, observe it with specificity, really, really clear as to what is actually happening in the body, and then to have the tools to, once identified with the left brain, you become the CEO of your own body, the chief executive officer. But in order to become the chief executive officer, the CEO of your own limbic system, I have to tell you, it takes a lot of work. And it's wonderful work, and it's fascinating work, because you come to, as it said over the lintel of the Temple of Delphi, going into that oracle, know thyself, know thyself. So if you, as the person who has your own body, what is going on in your own body, if you have trauma in your past, and if you are able to observe what triggers it, that's the first step in being able to manage what you do in the moment with that body information. And the body information is what the emotions do. They give you body information. They give you knowledge of yourself. And one can become better and better and better at the knowledge of the self in the body. I was teaching the Alba emoting emotional effector patterns at Alba Technique for rather a long time before the pandemic hit. And people were asking me to teach on Zoom. And I thought, I cannot ethically teach the emotional effector patterns on Zoom. It's immoral, it's unethical, and the foundress of Alba Emoting has absolutely forbidden it for a lot of reasons we won't go into in this session. But I knew that as a practitioner, as a teacher, I could not teach them on Zoom or Skype, or even if I could hologram or put glasses on your face so that it would appear that I was in the room with you. No kind of virtual reality can I do that. So what can I do? How can I help? Well, I've started 2 classes as I've been thinking through this, of the exercises that I use when I'm in person teaching the Alba emoting emotional effector patterns to help people prepare their minds, prepare their bodies to be able to go in and out of the emotional effector patterns and recover what you had as a baby. Recover the flexibility, the ability to go in and out of laughing and laughing and laughing, to being afraid of something that's new in your baby world, to then dropping the fear, so that when we're young, we don't have anxiety. Have you noticed in children, in very, very, very young children, babies, infants, they don't have anxiety like we do. Anxiety is fear that builds up, that goes stealth in our bodies and builds up so that we are always in a state of aroused ability to perceive quickly, because we fear internally, we're not aware of this, but we fear internally, if we have anxiety, that bad things are going to happen. And many, if not most of us, have plenty of reason to think that bad things are going to happen, all the way back to our childhood, all the way up through a pandemic. So as I've said in other ones, we are all dealing with certain levels of anxiety right now. Even those of us who are most limbically healthy, who have good limbic health, because I have excellent limbic health. And it's because of Alba emoting. And I apply that to anyone who comes to me at Alba Technique. So I do Qigong, and that's 3 sessions. And that works with a different level of mind. But the first thing that you want to take, if you want to find a way to have practices that you can be conscious of, that will allow you to do a limbic health assessment of yourself, is to attend to somatic sensing. Why somatic sensing? Why would I need 5 of those? Well, for limbic health, you need to learn how to do self-care. Now, many of my students use yoga. They use, what is the buzzword that's been around for maybe 5-10 years, certainly in New York? Mindfulness, the Buddhist phrase, mindfulness. You know, many people will say, breathe, simply breathe. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know how to breathe. Is it a really good idea to breathe? Yeah, it's a really good idea to breathe. So breathe. But becoming aware of the different ways in which the body is actually breathing is a real step forward to limbic health. And it moves you forward in self-care. And it might have you helped in your yoga class, so that you don't use certain asanas, certain positions that you might see another person using, that you are reactive to the fact that you can't do the thing that the other person is doing, so you might push yourself and become, because you emotionally have emotional reactivity, limbic reactivity, that you make yourself then push your body beyond its own limits, and what happens? One becomes injured. How do I know this? Personal experience in yoga years and years ago when I was a dancer. So it helps if we get a control over our feeling self, over our emotional self, and the way to that is through gaining the tools for a heightened ability to be clear and to be specific in observing the soma, in observing the body in Greek, the soma. And then for allowing the pneuma, which is very also Greek, been translated over the centuries to mean various things, even soul, certainly breath, a pneumatic drill uses air, to power it. So the pneuma, the pneuma, as it's said, is very, very important. But you need an increasing awareness. And you need an ability to be more and more mindful in a particular way of the body. Not just mindful in meditation, but of what your wonderful limbic system is telling your body. Because your limbic system is created, I believe, to allow each one of us as individuals to react to the circumstances we're in, to react to the Pat, what word do I want? React to the stimuli, plural, more than one thing being stimulating our body brains. And we then react according to our individuality within any given situation. But that can be overcome to a degree so that one finds out what in the body is the reactivity that is universal, that all human beings have when they come into the world, and regain that. What came into my head was Milton, paradise regained. So we're regaining our limbic paradise, which doesn't mean we won't be reactive. That's built in. That's natural. That's one level in brain above the autonomic nervous system, which makes sure that we're breathing and that our organs are working. So the next step up in brain development is the limbic system. In the Far East, they call that the reptilian brain, I think, because we're reactive within that. So in using increasing awareness, I made a note here, increasing awareness of your own biochemical reactivity, rephrase that, because that could be what do you mean, biochemical reactivity? Your limbic system's job is to spit out biochemicals which produce reactivity in you, which you as a human being experience as your emotions. Not just feeling emotional. I'm feeling a little emotional. No, not that. All of the emotions and all their wonder. All the emotions and all their wonder and their creativity and their information. All the emotions that serve you and serve others in the relationship if they're not neurotic. If we're neurotic, that means that we hold on to emotional reactivity that we don't need. And then often we spew it out at other people. And that is unhealthy both to ourselves and to the other people with whom we are in relationship. Whether it's a husband or wife, or whether it's our children, we cling. We cling to things in the body way longer than we need them. And that is a very important thing to know. You don't need to cling to things that are outmoded. But in order to figure out how to do that, we do need to go through your body to figure that out. If you want to go to a therapist, a licensed psychotherapist, as I've recommended before, as an excellent first step to this, it's different than what I do, but would be EMDR, so that you could really sit with a licensed professional and look at the trauma in your life. And so EMDR, and that's a very good modality. And then maybe we could work together. Maybe EMDR would do it for you. But the somatic sensing class, which actually starts on Monday, it starts on Monday, on Labor Day here in the United States for 5 sessions. And that is prior to the very intense weekend intensive. I think it's October 9th and 10th, a Saturday and Sunday on the United States federal holiday of Columbus Day / Indigenous Peoples Day. So there we are. Limbic health. Limbic health makes your whole life better. And if you're an artist, makes you available to yourself for your sculpting, for your painting, for your pot throwing, for your gardening and landscaping, all of this. It empowers us working with our limbic systems to have better health because our organs will simply work better, and to have better relationships because we're more mindful of what our own reactivity is. And then as you get good at this, you can also observe the other person's reactivity after you've observed your own, so that you don't do damage in your relationships, including your office relationships and your professional relationships. So the watchword today is limbic health. And what is limbic health was our question. Limbic health is working with your body rather than against it, in order to be able to assess what the limbic part of your brain is throwing out to you in your own emotional reactivity. And so you can have the freedom to figure out what to do about it. So thank you very much for joining me on all the feels, in which we engage all of our feelings. Nothing is off limits. And I would be grateful for any comment you would have, and speaking to others about the good that I am doing at Alba Technique with people's emotions specifically. So thank you so much. And my assistants will put this on the Alba Technique YouTube channel. And I am wishing all of you most excellent somatic health and most excellent through limbic health. Bless you. Next week on Facebook Live, I leave you with this beautiful, beautiful image. And I thank you for being with me. I am Patricia Angelin, and you are at All the Feels with Alba Technique.